Hi, I'm Debbie Garft and I'm responsible for coastal change policy at the Scottish Government. Many of you will be familiar with Dynamic Coast 1, which was published in 2017. This was our first national assessment of coastal change, and for the first time we understood the magnitude of our risks from coastal erosion. We were able to identify the assets at risk, and we were able to consider the impacts that past erosion rates could have in future if these rates were to continue. What you might call the best case scenario. Perhaps more importantly, we could demonstrate that the value that nature provides in terms of protection from the might of the sea. This helps us to better understand the importance of respecting what nature provides and the urgent need to protect these defences. With greater global emphasis on valuing natural habitat and building with nature to protect communities, it's hard to imagine a more important setting for that than along our coasts. Having just returned from a mini tour of coastal Sutherland with beautiful sunshine, and although every time I got out of the car I was lifted off my feet by the wind, I'm reminded not only of the beauty of the coastline, but the resilience of coastal communities in the front line of the attack from the sea. The research being presented today will help us all work together and plan to ensure that coastal communities and assets can remain resilient to the impacts of the sea this decade and beyond. You will hear about how the maps and reports will help us think about flexible futures for coastal areas, coastlines that have space to move as needed over the decades, and communities where people and assets are resilient to the changes. Dynamic Coast 2 outputs are already helping shape policy around the National Planning Framework 4, as well as addressing risks identified by the latest UK climate change risk assessment. The evidence also helps us deliver actions in the Scottish Climate Change Adaptation Programme and will help local authorities develop the next round of local flood risk management plans. The outputs will also be of interest to those working in resilience, marine planning, leisure, transport and the water industry, to name just a few. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to acknowledge the Dynamic Coast team and the funders. Dynamic Coast 1 and 2 were funded by the Centre for Expertise in Waters, and the research was undertaken by the University of Glasgow. And a special thank you to Alistair Rennie from Nature Scot, who has managed the research since 2015 on behalf of the Scottish Government.